Last time I got a sledgehammer, so I'm going to be starting this episode by busting up this place like just the world's worst piñata. Though I don't actually require it for this section. This is something you can do from the very start of the game. I just didn't want to because I think it's a little more thematically appropriate to do it at this point. So the obvious thing is to just continue going through the vent to get out of it, but if you turn backwards at any point in time, you're faced with this guy, the vent monster. And unlike the drowned waiter last time, this guy is a proper boss. If you try to fight him at the very start of the game, you will lose. Though, for the secret that I'm going for, that's exactly what I want to happen. It seems like the vent monster is, at least as far as I can tell, similar to, or at least analogous to, the restrained animatronic, the clown boss from the first game. I guess it managed to get free from its restraints and now wanders the vents. Great. Good. About as tough as that guy, too. So instead of having your character die and get a new one, you get dragged deeper into the vents, which lets you into this area. Which is certainly an interesting place. I mean, it does have a whole lot of goodies in here, so if you're just starting the game, it is a good way to get a lot of the essential items you're going to require for the rest of it. It's just, what is up with the floor? And the thing is, this sort of basic background appears a lot in the innards of Stazoni's. They kind of look like the face that you encounter going into the Showtime section. The one that talked to you and gave you a pretty good lore dump. But here they just make up the floor. I don't know. Maybe Stazoni's is literally using a bunch of lost souls as insulation. Which, given the rest of the game, would not actually surprise me. Well, we'll be seeing a lot more of that later on. But before that, talk to the senior staff a couple more times to get a little bit more lore on the opening of this place. A few missing employees would be so good for business. Another thing that's going to be coming up an awful lot. Yeah, I'll say this right now, lore related. I think I understand a little bit more playing through the ending once again, getting the footage for this episode, but there's still like a lot of speculation that I am entirely unsure about. But hey, at least we get the classic way of storytelling in these sort of games, newspaper clippings, coming to you from The Right Turn, which, yeah, cute name. 3 found dead at the local plaza, which I do believe is referring to the thing the senior staff was just talking about. And I'll be referring a lot to these newspaper clippings because I think that they're at least the most concrete form of storytelling that I can get to. Aside from that, coming in there, you do get as the item description says, a prototype game controller for playing arcade games at home. I guess your OG Neo Geo. What it's doing in the walls of Stazoni's, I don't know. Certainly, this is 1980X, so you would be able to play home consoles at this time, but I guess not in the sort of fidelity that you were seeing there. Like I said, it was described as prototype technology, and hey, where better to use it than this odd-headed fellow? Yeah, sure, why not? So this is an improved form of Cleanup Kid. It's not only more difficult, it is also a lot more rewarding. You get 10 tickets for beating this one rather than just the usual 4. And the first time that you finish it, you get a razor, which is good for this entire section, getting the various goodies inside each one of these stalls. Yeah, it's something that I didn't really show off too much. I don't think I showed myself even getting each one of the presents that you find in here. But basically the way that this entire area works is that it's kind of, I don't know, similar to the morgue area in The Evil Within, where you would occasionally find keys throughout that game, and then you would be able to get random prizes by turning them in that section of the game. I don't think that was probably the intended inspiration, but that's the thing it most reminds me of. So yeah, I would definitely recommend playing that version of Cleanup Kid if you are trying to get like the Ascension Frisbee, still have yet to get that, or are looking to get a whole lot more firecrackers. It is more difficult, but as long as you don't play as poorly as I did, you do get a lot of tickets out of it. Especially useful for here. Getting the Unlucky Bat. In the first game, I think like one of the best abilities, or maybe it was just the best item that the kid could get, was called the Lucky Bat, so just to play on that. Also, in the more newspaper clippings and way more arcade cabinets. Yeah, if you thought that the arcade might have seemed a little bit too large, that wasn't just the use of impossible space. Apparently, they really do have a whole lot of those arcade cabinets back there. That guy. Again. Just everywhere. But yeah, I mean, I think that of the many areas that you can use the sledgehammer, this one is probably the most important. I mean, not only does it have a gigantic spotlight on it, it also, you know, is like a plastered over door there too. And hey, another person actually recognizing the existence of the weird red mimic guy. It's been running around Zonies the entire game, but until now, it's like nobody's really, you know, aside from fighting it as a mimic, it's like nobody's really mentioned it. And alternate dialogue. Like I said, restarting the game and stuff like that to do some alternate routes. I made sure to be very comprehensive with everything that I could possibly do. So yeah, that's going to be, even though I have finished each one of the major wrong turns, there are still some like quest type of things to do. Whether it's finally encountering and fighting the red guy, or getting the extra large cheesy bar that the obese cat was asking me for last time. But now here's one of the other major things that you're going to be doing now that you got the sledgehammer. Literally walking around the outside of each one of the areas. And around the outside of each one of these areas, there are a lot of surveillance cameras, which you can decide to fight. And for whatever reason, there's not really too much consequence for it. You would think there definitely would be some reason why you would not want to bust up each one of these cameras, but nope. You can do it as much as you want. Gets you $75 for each one that you kill, too. And although they are a little bit rough, they're not that bad to fight. So, hey, if you need a lot of extra cash at this point in the game, it's one of the easiest ways to do it. I mean, you would think, like, with the way that the security room is entirely closed off from you, that, yeah, breaking all the security cameras would do something, but as far as I can tell, and I fought every single one of these, it really doesn't. It's just for the money. I don't know. Security cameras also do appear as one of the generic enemies you can find in... not quite the same thing. It's more like a lesser form of it that you can find in the backstage area, but I never encountered one of those in the last video. Wasn't until I replayed the game again that I even saw that. Also, one of the regular Susie animatronics appears as an enemy as well. And yeah, that... Now, there's a couple of those, but I honestly do not know what to make of the red guy hauling around what appears to be one of the Joy Mutant type of chefs. I don't know. But yeah, the other thing I was going to say is that, yes, the clown on the wall is not literally a clown. It's a strange statuette, which is another thing that you encountered in the first game, where to fight the restrained animatronic in the first place, you needed to find one of the strange statuettes and have that equipped up in your inventory. So you can see it's another one of those I really can't tell exactly what it is, but it looks like I said, it looks like one of the chefs that you find in the freezer section, minus its head. And walking all the way around each one of the areas to kind of get like a little bit of a better look at it. And also, you know, to fight each one of the cameras that I possibly can. Gotta get that cash, man. It's another red guy. I don't know. And this, of the ones you're going to find, are kind of like the most important. You know, I just realized, wait a second, there's a security camera in the bathroom. That's not right. And then in this section, instead of finding one of the red guys with one of the corpses, you instead find the kid from the first game. So, yeah, One Night at the Steez is, in fact, canon, apparently. Because that is, like, literally the kid as he appeared in One Night at the Steez. Eating a monster. Well, he was something of a glutton in the first game, but not to that extent. Yeah, I told you that there's going to be a lot of lore here, and here's where it starts to get real weird. Well, anyway, you might recognize this place. That's where I went around the outside to find the guy that you would occasionally find in the alleys. There was that vent that you could crawl in there, and that leads to this section. And also on the floor, that's the area that the vent monster drags you to. So, yeah. Also, as you can see, a lot more, even more type of monsters kind of lurking in the walls of the establishment here. Now remember to look further in that this time. Still gotta... Ah, damn it. And since I had already raided this place, yeah, not really too much to do. Yeah? Yeah, okay. And you can just jump down there yourself, but the first time you go through there, you're immediately shoved down there by the red guy. Man, oh man. So yeah, this one is from 1950X, compared to the other one, which was from 1970X and 1980X. And of course, much like you saw in the other newspaper clippings, more things to be calling then too when I get back to the phone. So yeah, if I don't know exactly what the trigger for this is, but in the other playthrough that I did when I got knocked down here, you found the Showtime puppet and what appears to be like the red guy's skin, or at least one of them. Certainly there's far more than one of those guys wandering around here. So this is the strange aspect. I guess you would call it an optional super boss, but it is required, you know, for proof that you did in fact defeat the red guy, even though, again, there is definitely more than one. This is one of the ways you can do that. This does not appear to be a finished version of the guy, and judging by the little nameplate it has on, does also seem to be made from one of the employees of Stazoni's. So yeah, it is also a proper boss in his own right, so having the Showtime puppet here is actually pretty good, especially if you get the mark and like and if you've been getting a whole ton of tickets like I have from the cleanup kid minigame. Just continuously attack him with the light gun ability. Yeah, it does not... The strange aspect is a very weird type of character. And I want to say that with the way that like the collectors seem to have like dominion over the backstage, and I would guess like probably the animatronics and probably the puppets that appeared back there too, it seems like the way that they were creating a bunch of like the red guys around here seems to be, and the way that you see them all over the place and doing something, it makes me wonder if like the actual purpose of the collector is to be sort of like a soul wrangler. in the way that it kind of keeps, like, the place cleaned up and prevents, say, some of the more undesirable aspects of the establishment in check, even more so than what the employees do. That one, apparently not a good version of the red guys that are around here. A poor attempt at mimicking the puppets on stage. So, yeah, I mean, well, hey, beating it is proof enough to try to show whatever the guy behind the door there is that you did defeat the red guy in one way or another. But there is also an alternate way to get the skin suit. Which, to no surprise at all, is from the puppet itself. So here's the question. Is he attached to, like, a super giant version of the red guy? Now, the thing is, the collector himself appeared to be, like, kind of a black and white thing. Maybe the collector, if you got him in the light a little bit more, was, in fact, one of the gigantic puppets. And that's, like, what the Showtime puppet is currently attached to. The idea that each one of the red guys is just a bunch of larger... is just like a bunch of smaller, controllable versions of the collector that are spread throughout the entirety of the establishment to kind of keep it together. I don't know. I do, in fact. Yeah, there are way more razors that appear in the game than are actually required to get all of the prizes in the bathroom. So it was not difficult to just kind of have one on hand. I don't think it actually matters which one of these choices you pick, because, well, it kind of stops you right here. I mean, the collector, if the Showtime puppet is in fact attached to the collector, he doesn't seem to be that bad of a guy. I mean, certainly he is complicit in everything that's been going on in Stazoni's, but comparatively, he's a lot friend. He didn't even try to attack me until I, kind of got in his face, so not the worst thing. And yeah, that's the alternate way. Still has the same description, though. I was kind of hoping that it would have like an alternate one that might shed a little bit of light on what the Showtime puppet actually is, but it's still described as like a poor attempt to mimic it. And then if you already have the skin suit from the strange aspect, puts him more at ease on what exactly he is, I think. Yeah, if you are running when you try to interact with the phone, the menu options don't appear. I don't know. So yeah, now that I've seen a couple new phone numbers for the missing kids and the original like hiring notice for the pizzeria, so I'm going to be calling those. And by the way, apparently, I don't remember where I saw this, but the developer did say that the kid that appears in the missing child ad is in fact like a super low-res version of himself as a kid, which is why I just kind of like copy-paste it over and over. Well, there you go. There's a developer cameo. To no surprise, yeah, not really something that is super relevant anymore. Then calling up the pizzeria, you get maybe the third time that the manager has appeared in the game, the very beginning of the game, as first time she called you up on one of the phones at the very beginning, and then now. Still giving you the old Scott Cawthon, hello, hello, hello. And talking about the original manager of this place. Which, I mean, I don't think we ever actually meet in any way. If that dude is still around, no idea where he is. And then since I got all three of the clown statuettes in the vents or whatever, the ceiling, the attic, I don't know. Anyway, you trade them to this guy for something optional, but still pretty important. Worn cassette. You might have noticed with the television that you did have the ability to play a VCR tape, but that didn't really come into play until right now, and I do think that this is the only one that you can even get. So yeah, good luck selling those incredibly cursed statuettes from an even more cursed place. I'm sure you'll do just fine. If you reload the area, though, you'll see that he's replaced by a single slice of birthday cake. So maybe he's not going to be just fine. Well, anyway, let's go slam that cassette in there. Last remaining piece of evidence. I mean, the dude did say that he's been around for quite a while, and I guess... Oh, great. Cognito hazard. Fun stuff. I think that's like an SCP phrase. I don't know. Well, either way, second to last wrong turn that we're going to be seeing in the game, and boy howdy is it one. You can see in the upper left corner that it is a level 4 type of encounter. Even though, for the most part, going around in the birthday incident, it's not really too threatening. It's just a lot of birthday presents and balloons, which makes sense for a birthday type of setting. But it's when you get to the boss, things get a lot rougher. Well, look, I would have watched this alone if I possibly could, but it's not like I can get the senior staff out of here. Oh, well, unlike the rest of the balloons that you fight in the game, these guys are more aggressive. Not any more difficult, but you do have to fight them comparatively. Well, anyway, like I said, getting to the end is not difficult, but when you get here... So I said the vent monster might be the restrained animatronic. It's like, nope. Meet the birthday entity. This dude is tough. I'm going to try to get rid of him ASAP and try to really lock him down. Since there's not really too many encounters in the birthday incident as it exists, it's not too difficult to get all of the recruitable allies that you possibly can. And stunning him with the drowned waiter, marking him with a rustled chef, is good for preventing him from attacking, because the birthday entity has the ability to use gift boxes, which attacks every one of your characters for a huge amount of damage, and I think also inflicts status ailments. Don't let this guy attack if you possibly can. Otherwise, you're going to be going down real quick. Well, hey, this is an entirely optional section, so it should be no surprise that it's quite difficult if you're not prepared. And I think you also get a special version of the encounter music, which is just the same thing, except really slowed down. Good stuff. By the way, is this the birthday party that was alluded to in one of the newspaper clippings? I do believe so. I'll probably be talking about it a little bit later as we really start to dive into some of the endings. Speaking of which, certificates. Yeah, for getting each one of the endings and for doing this optional bit, you get certificates, which are going to be important for 100% completion. And here's the last. I talked about before how the last recruitable character you get is way at the end of the game, and boy is it. This is one of the last things you're going to be doing to get the birthday entity, who does come with the gift box's ability, which is pretty great. And I guess that's another one of the reasons why you want to watch that alone. Hey, she's died before. It's probably fine. It's probably fine. Well, anyway, yeah, like I said, we'll be talking about that a little bit more and about what exactly the birthday incident is as we get farther. So here, if you have a skin suit, either from the Showtime puppet or from the strange aspect, you're able to get into this door. As whoever is on the other side is a lot happier about what I mean, this was a place entirely closed off from the rest of the establishment. There's clearly more here than just a guy who's scared of the red dude. Everyone is an opportunity. And I do have a lot of the stuff here, including like the blank.exe, steez.exe that I got from Singularity, but don't have a soul. And yeah, I guess the person on the other side of that door was the kid. Hey, cool. I guess after the events of One Night at the Steez, which, like I said, is definitely confirmed to be canon now, he got shoved into the... He is now haunting the establishment in the same way that a lot of other people are. After the manager shoved him into the furnace. So, there's that. Great. Cool. Well, hey, at least it gave me the extra large cheese bar. So yeah, I guess the furnace played a pretty big part of the first game, where it seemed like that was kind of like the core of the establishment, and that does seem to continue on into here too, where the kid is now kind of like the major avatar of it, if I was going to make any sort of speculation on that. And it does seem like the red... It could be that like the existence of the collector is actually kind of like as a soul wrangler. You know, things like keeping the kid locked in the back rooms, preventing him from kind of wandering around like you would see in the upper area, by use of the red guy, use of its many aspects. Maybe? I don't know. I mean, the collector, like I said, did definitely have a pretty important part to play in the... Sure. Well, there's how you get the soul. The collector definitely did have an important part to play in the story, and to find out that it was kind of like keeping all of the many lost souls that exist in here in check wouldn't surprise me at all. Well, anyway. Yep. Even more confirmation that yes, One Night of the Steez is 100% canonical. After the end of that game, it did get burned down, and I guess that's what we're encountering right here. So this is basically endgame. This final wrong turn is what you would consider the final boss of the game, even though it's only considered a stroll level of encounter. And the only things that you encounter going through here are each one of your recruitable party members. Which, from what I understand, I don't think you need to recruit, but you can. And I would probably suggest it. Yeah, that difficulty level is absolutely lying to you, by the way. Yep. Got lost through time and space, though, so it's not really clear if this is definitely not happening at the same time as before, 1980X. What's kind of questionable is if it's happening in the past or the future. And here's where you get two of the endings. Encountering the kid yet again in the walls of the establishment. And final boss thing. So this fight is pretty hefty. The kid does have all of the abilities that he did back in the first game, and is not afraid to use them. So yeah, you get marking from the chef, you get entangling from the waiter, you get sugar rush from the birthday entity. It's a lot of the stuff that you would normally have to use a lot of items to get, but jeez. But it is much easier to do with a full party. So yeah, with the kid being the only one here, I guess it is basically you just cleaning up the rest of the souls that were entrapped in the establishment to kind of give more of a closure to that, as far as I can tell. And although it is something of a rough fight, like I said, if you get a full party, it's not too difficult at all. Also, the Lost Soul's eyes kind of appearing as this orangish color, I believe, is also what you would see when you were wandering around in the walls of the pizzeria before too. I mean, the ones that you could see as you were in the vents, like going up to the in that area where the red guy hit you down. Then it's revealed that the kid is an animatronic? I guess if he died here, he could possess one of the many animatronics, and yeah, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know. I mean, it's obviously not the real kid. You're fighting like his soul, but why an animatronic? That I do not have answers for. The inhumanity of the management and consumption of its feed. So yeah, no, these are not just a collection of disparate characters. All of these were created as part of Stazoni's and like whatever their master plan might have been. Which, as far as I can tell, seemed to be the continuation. Like, the management saw Stazoni's as one really great, really cool place that, regardless of all the atrocities happening, was totally worth continuing to exist as it does. Which is why you got stuff like the birthday entity, which, I mean, the implication seemed to be... The implication seemed to be that it was... that the birthday entity, as it existed, was summoned up by the catering from the newly formed pizzeria in there. They were selling the statuettes that were obviously somehow connected to the birthday entity. Then, like, that place, the birthday got catered, summoned up the birthday entity, a bunch of people died, and that meant that the pizzeria became much more popular. And then as more employees started to become missing, the pizzeria only became more and more popular until you either put an end to it here, or, as we'll see in a few other endings, other things happen. And this I don't think I actually ever showed. The wrong turn menu, as you can see it right now. And like each of the rewards and everything that you get to. So I thought I'd just show it right there. Well, anyway, alternate ending. Feeding the kid. Which, it does not matter if you actually summoned up each one of the recruitable characters. They all attack you right now instead. Because what you're doing is you are feeding the souls to the child, who has become kind of like the avatar of the establishment. And you get joined by the various other recruitable characters that you find in the game. Because, basically the people who are still loyal to the establishment in one way or another. So it's not entirely unfair. Of course, why the kid was an animatronic, I still cannot say. I mean, yeah. So, although I speculated in the last episode that I think it was like a little bit more potentially benevolent of an establishment, like keeping all of these SCP type of characters in check, no, I'm pretty sure that they were just exploiting them in a way to just make the pizzeria more and more popular over time. Because it does seem like it started out as kind of like a very tiny operation, moving into, a single store in a plaza, moving into just this gigantic behemoth of a pizzeria as it is right now. And continuing to feed its souls, it would just become larger and larger over time. The only real setback coming from the kid burning it down at one point in time in the past. Because that is what I think. I think that One Night at the Stees happened basically between the birthday incident and the present. And like, this is probably the more canonical interpretation. Oh, by the way, there is like a time travel going on. I do want to point that out. Yeah, it's like, and I do think that this is like the canonical story here, where you have like the senior staff puppet and the kid himself. He still obviously exists in one way or another, helping you to continue to feed the establishment and make it grow. Got a lot more souls where that came from. Then we're treated to this ending. I am speeding up the credits because we're going to be seeing a whole lot of credits. By the way, is one of the patrons named Bruh Sound Effect? Yes. The night of fun never ends. I believe that's what you got for the join the manager ending of the first game as well. That same phrase. Which is why I think that's probably the canonical one. The certificate of death, not so much. I mean, by the way, I don't know how much of like a canon thing to the story the certificates are, because there's like the one of birth that said like born at this establishment, the one of death, you know, deceased there, maybe imply. That was one of those things where I was thinking that it's like potentially it could have been that you were playing as that. It's like, you know, you have like these avatars that were like employees, but you were actually playing maybe like as the spirit of the establishment itself. I don't think that's the case, but you know, especially seeing that you might have been born after the massacre for the birthday incident. And by the way, one of the keys that you got for entering the place where the kid was in the first, starting out, does allow you access to the other porta potty, which, as the game has established, is time travel. And this is important to getting another ending, taking you back to the past, but not so far back to the birthday incident, nor to the One Night at the Stees. Somewhere in between both of those, where you find the manager as a kid. Maybe they were. So yeah, you didn't really think that we were going to be jumping all around the timeline. Man, I told you that there was a lot of lore in this game. So anyway, yeah. You get to see what the original statue was, which I guess was of the birthday entity clown, said to be an old god worshipped by kids everywhere, which might be a joke. Did you see the birthday entity, though? I don't think that was actually a joke. Well, anyway, alternate dialogue. Said it would be better if there was busier around here. And like I said, the thing that makes Stizoni's very popular and also prevents it from being like remembered as like a source of a lot of massacres is people dying around here. And the guy was saying that it would be better if it was more popular around here. And the way that it appears that the car that drove up is the company car that you see in the back alley. The manager just came in here and murdered all of his employees to make Stizoni's more popular. Yeah. So just like in a fit of rage, just ran in here and murdered all of the night employees. And also, a fourth person. Now, who is the surviving victim? I want to say the surviving victim is somebody who was related to the child outside. She was talking about how, like, hey, just, as soon as the manager in there finished up, well, killing everybody, I guess, she was going to be leaving. And they mentioned in one of the newspaper cutouts was that there were 3 people working here at the time. And you could obviously see 3 bodies. So I think this 4th person is a patron who was probably, like, picking up some pizza and was related in some way to the kid. And they just happened to be here. And you, as a loyal employee, and as the senior staff, which I just summoned up, who said no job left undone, are making sure that, all your bases are covered. This is more or less what I would count as a bad ending. Also, where you're really starting to get into the like, real heavy bits of the story tier 2. That gives you the security key, which allows you to go into the security area. As well as, like I said, tying up some loose ends. Also, because the kid there gave me that cheesy chew, which, by the way, is described as a cheese-flavored candy. Great. You get a little bit of extra dialogue with the senior staff. Yeah, it seems like whatever sort of dark magics they're using to, like, embolden this place with the souls of the damned also makes it so that nobody can actually recognize that, like, the atrocities that are taking place here are in fact taking place here. And stuff like the kid there distracts them in one way or another. There are protests, but nobody knows what exactly they're protesting. As you saw in the... Yeah. As you saw in the newspaper clippings. And we get this ending. She very explicitly said, don't go into locked doors. And I think that the reason she kills you here is because the idea is that you're supposed to... The idea is that you're supposed to be, like, exterminating some of the more rowdy issues that arise as part of what's happening in Stazoni's. However, if you find your way into the security room, that means that you're going too deep, basically, and you are trying to, like, take advantage of some of the like, power that apparently the lost souls provide you, which is why you get killed immediately. Well, that and the fact that, getting the security key did imply that you probably killed, like, maybe the girl's parents or whatever. I can understand why she would maybe be upset. Well, anyway, getting all of the stuff here, what you can do is you can go back and create the perfect employee, which is... It's the kid. Of course it is. Who else would it be? Even got that afro, too. So there's a question. One of the things that was required was steez.exe was part of creating the singularity, either accidentally or purposely, just an intent to, like, try to create an avatar for the kid. He is apparently an animatronic in the past, so the ability to transpose his soul onto that is, yeah. Oh, by the way, did the attendant suddenly turn into a waitress? Why, it's almost as if I died the first time because the attendant is a bad character. Well, anyway. Don't worry about it. Look, the important bit is that we're here right now. And then instead of taking the extra large cheese bar, going into the past, you can instead basically take out the kid, or aka the phylactery, in the present day with an avatar of himself. Yeah. Well, either way, this is like destroying the souls in the establishment destroys the establishment, and the kid is kind of like the nexus of the souls, even though he can exist separate from it. I told you, this game gets weird. Well, anyway, this fight is actually very similar to the other one that I did in the Steez section, where it is, well, it's a fight against like kind of a boss entity, and then it's a fight against a bunch of characters. There are multiple phases here. The kid as like the transposed soul does still have all of the same abilities he did in the first game. You know, the lucky bat, the fart ability, just everything. It's a lot of good stuff. But hey, just having like a second character here, period, is good enough. And there we go. There's phylactery version of the kid versus soul version of the kid. And then with the rest of the souls defeated, the establishment is once again destroyed. Except this time in the present day rather than far in the past. Although for some reason Soul Mass B does have a lot of extra health comparatively. I still don't know why he was an animatronic in the past, though. That's one thing that I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, he's like scared into submission by the Collector and the strange aspect characters, the mimics that you see kind of running around. So I get that. And like the way that the souls are being used to basically prop up the company, which again, you get even more proof of right here. Why was he an animatronic in the past, though? Yeah, that's fine. You know, you might be wistful for the idea that it's like, hey, it's a lot more exciting when this place is a super huge haunted pizzeria. I would disagree, though. Well, anyway, kid's body dragged out of there, and then the establishment is destroyed without its phylactery. Good end as far as I'm concerned. Hey, bro, sound effect. You have one hell of a name. Good. Much like I said with the singularity, I have no sympathy for that. Title drop. Right there. You know, I do think that, like, compared to one of the things that I did speculate on earlier was the idea that yeah, there's the eyes in the background, by the way. And now that I have each one of the certificates, I can go right into the ending, the true ending. Well, I can go into the extra area. Yeah, it's still dated 1980X. It's not dated 1950X. I don't know. Well, anyway, yeah, one of the things I speculated on was the idea that maybe, like, going into the security room, you know, you're getting too deep, and that shows that you're trying to, like, take advantage of the soul masses in here rather than trying to destroy them, which might be what the manager intended. In One Night at the Steez, it did seem like she was more than happy to kind of, like, continue to kill people and throw them into the furnace. But it's like here, she seemed a lot more depressed, and she was talking about how there was no delivery, at least not yet. So it could also be that one of the things that the manager was doing was that she was sick of the whole, like, steez that is going on here, and was trying to intentionally destroy it. And that's why you were killing all of the monstrosities that appeared around here. And the idea that it's just like, there at the end, it's like, there is no delivery. It's just like, there is delivery for everybody else. I don't know. And it's like, the destruction of the establishment was actually an intended thing. Then, I'll just switch through a few of the tracks here. I told you I wanted to do this game a lot because I like the idea of all this weird lore and trying to suss it out. And let me tell you, as we're going through the museum, it's like, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I like a good puzzle game, and I like a good game and I like a good RPG. And although I do think that it was a little bit, ultimately a little bit short, a little bit lacking, especially like looking at some of the ideas that they had here in the museum, I would really like to have seen, a really big version of this game. But considering that it did seem to be made largely by a single person, I can completely understand why we got what we got. I still had a lot of fun with it anyway. And I think that it was... Yeah, we've heard this way too many times. And I think that it was like entirely worth playing through. And I am pretty interested in seeing what this developer is going to be doing in the future. I do know about Nobody's Home, but that is also like a very small game comparatively too. I would like to see a really big RPG made of this sort of style. Or like a remake of this game or something, because there's a lot of fun stuff here, even if I couldn't quite grasp all of it. I think I got most of it. So, yeah, I'll say this. A bunch of different areas, SCP style, as I was saying. But yeah, I'll say this. I really enjoyed a lot of this game. And I do hope we see some more from Horror and Oats. And some bigger games. I think this really would have benefited a lot from being a much larger game. And it seemed like it was intended to be, but, Trying to make sure this thing actually comes out kind of takes priority. Yeah, but at the same time, like, the ball pit character didn't really seem to... I don't know, it seemed like didn't really have like too much of a connection to the rest of the area. It was just kind of like a monster that was in the pizzeria. Yep, those characters were originally basically the final boss before you fought the manager in the first game. It only ever did the one like rolling its eyes around thing once though. Could have got some more usage out of that emotion. Well, she eventually got to be a playable character anyway. I don't know, that's why I thought it was going to be the... I'm still not entirely unconvinced that the animatronic is not the vent monster. Yeah, that's an interesting thing. I don't know, is he supposed to be the same character? Red boy. Yeah, it's like, is the Russell chef supposed to be the same character that appeared in One Night at the Steve's? Because that did seem to happen in the past. Besides, all of the chefs look the exact same. So, with like the bag over their heads and everything. So, I'm not quite sure if there is like a connection to be made there. There's a few things, stuff like things that you saw on the certificates, like the birth and death. What the actual purpose of like the red guy hauling around those corpses in the establishment was. Yeah, like I said, why the kid was an animatronic at the end there. And, like, was it supposed to be that the Russell Chef is the same character in both the games? There's a bunch of questions like that I still have yet to kind of, like, give any actual... Like I said, I don't got all the answers. But yeah, I sped through most of the other credits, so here's, like, the proper version of them. And yeah, the manager is just the super character. But as they said in the thing with the completion certificate, there are no other mysteries or anything to be found. If you try to get her to talk to herself in the past, you get no new dialogue on that or anything. But since I never actually fought this guy, why not just do it right here? She's got special abilities and everything. Pink slip, for example. Good stuff. Yeah, just kind of basically like the developer character to wander around. And similarly, because you saw what happened when you died to the vent monster, here's what happens when you beat it. Is it nothing? It's nothing. Still, at least it's pretty easy to take on. And then just because I know that one of the other big questions you would have if you're playing as the manager. Trust nobody, not even yourself.